Hey there, everybody. How's it going? It's a baseball update for Tuesday, June 21st. It's almost 11 p.m. on the East Coast. A lot of the games have finished today, and many are also late in the game today. So hopefully we'll have some finals in some of these games as we go through the video. It is now 6-2 Cardinals. That means one of the picks wins that we had today because it was over 5. So I wanted to talk about a bunch of stuff as I was going through this tonight. I wanted to, provide some guidance to people who are using the file and trying to update it and trying to get it to work because it's a toy, basically. It feels like a toy when you start playing with variables. And I'm going to show you how we're going to play with variables because we actually need to do some research. As I was looking at this, I realized we're not having a great day today, missing some games. Look at this, like 6 and 9 currently with games still in progress, but not looking great. Boston did win though. I said, don't play it. God, never listen to me. Always listen to the algorithm. The Dodgers moved up to the #1 pick of the day after lineups were confirmed. They had no trouble covering. It's the Yankees that tried to come back, but still lost. So they hit their run projection, but they got Tampa Bay actually hit Nestor Cortez. So, I don't know how bad to feel about that. They've been playing really good. Odds makers have it up there too. Odds makers, margin of victory, only one. This game ended up being what, 5-4 or 5-3? Thought it was 5-3. Maybe I'm wrong. That game was 5-4. Wow. And that's pretty amazing because the algorithm had predicted in that game that the score of that game would be 5.7-4. Wow. And I said, don't play. I just have a funny way of disagreeing with the algorithm and always being wrong or just call whatever. Anyway, there was not an over in the Washington-Baltimore game as I wagered, but there was an over in the Colorado-Miami game. And that was the one to take the alternate over in for sure, as they totaled 17 runs somehow. So things were kind of choppy all over the place, but it made me think, well, what do we need to do with variables and what's going on here? And I was like, well, throughout the season, as more stats are accumulated for all the teams and for all the players, like batter stats, and we have variables here in the batter sheet also that we can play with. Pitchers, I don't really have variables for the pitchers because they just use raw stats in the main matchup sheet here related to pitchers up here. So anyway, team pitching, team batting. Point is we can change these as the season progresses because the stats are more illustrious and they mean a little bit more, and you have a wider variance between players that have played a full season and ones that have been injured or coming in for a few games, but they're playing well. There's different ways to measure that. And so we need to do some actual analysis rather than really trying to think it through and go through every single one. You can do simple tests with this in small samples like today. And I can even set it up so that you can program it and do retroactive tests toward basically all of the games previously. You can formulate it that way with a current distribution you have. But let me show you what a different distribution means and kind of what I'm talking about. If there were no variables in play whatsoever, the algorithm still somehow does a projected score because that takes into account some other stuff independently, but there's no margin on any game. Every game has 0 margin. And so when you look at what's happening here, it doesn't know what to do because there's no formulas at all in here. Well, you can start to say, I only care about one of these factors. Talking about the factor that the number is directly above. So pitcher win percentage. What if that was the only factor that we cared about in this game? Ironically, or not ironically, but matter of factly, Tony Gonsolin of the Dodgers is still the #1 pick of the day if you just use pitcher win percentage. You can see what the total woulda, shoulda, coulda would have happened with that just one distribution. The pitcher win percentage, the day actually goes 7-4 and looks kind of similar. you still lose, but if Arizona holds on against San Diego, you win that. And the Angels, these games are not all over, so it doesn't mean much yet. But the point is let's look at that and say, well, where did things not work out? What factors didn't mean anything? WHIP was bad, right? WHIP had these teams on top, didn't matter. Trevor Williams' WHIP didn't matter. The Mets are losing 2-8 right now, right? Yeah, exactly. That's not going to be a win. So WHIP wasn't as good. So let's remember that. So pitcher win percentage was pretty good. WHIP was not good. ERA, how about that? This is a way of just doing mini regression testing, basically. Wow, look at how ERA put that game is not over though. Minnesota's tied 5-5 unless they scored. They score. They have 2 guys on, 2 out. That's not over yet. So don't listen to that being a win yet. But anyway, Dodgers game's over. Seattle's not over. Pittsburgh's over, I think. Yeah. Texas is not over, but they're winning 3-0, and St. Louis is winning 6-2 now. So ERA is actually looking pretty good as a factor. So pitcher whip percentage was good. WHIP not great. ERA good. How about lineup factor? The lineup factor is a little more complicated than just the word lineup factor. That's not awful, but not good. Although San Diego not over yet. Yankees tough loss. Still have the Cubs up there. You have Milwaukee with the lineup, which you definitely wanted St. Louis, it looks like, as St. Louis is winning 6-2 in the bottom of the 8th. And I felt good about St. Louis. So, and Milwaukee not playing well. So when I think that lineup factor was actually more of a just toss up, almost random factor. Kind of. I don't think it was all that good. And what builds up to the lineup factor is the distribution in the batter sheet. So maybe we should look at not attributing, 10% to runs, 10% to hits. This is a very even keel distribution. Maybe we should be looking at more stuff like average now. Maybe we should be looking at RBIs, it's stolen bases. Now these things are bigger numbers and might matter. I'm not really sure. That's a whole other video of doing batter distributions to see what works there, because that then filters in to what this lineup factor actually is. And so do we keep going down the rabbit hole and keep doing work to optimize? The answer is, if you want the best product out there, you kind of have to. So I have some people that can help me write some macro codes to test different percentages of this, to try to find some kind of optimal distribution that comes out of this when you try a bunch of different scenarios and then plug it into the history. It's a really complicated thing. I just don't want to put a ton of effort into it, when there's other things to do, but that's what you could do. So lineup factor was kind of messy. How about bullpen ERA factor? How was that? Bullpen ERA, not bad. Angels game not over, but they're losing. Baltimore somehow loses this game to Washington. That's stunk. This game's not over. And it still gives it to Milwaukee. So bullpen ERA factor, okay, but not great. How about streaks the last 10 days? I kind of want to know that one. Terrible. Interesting. Wow. So, yep. So streaks is one of those that I almost say leave it down at just like 1%, just to have it in there, just as a little something, but don't make it mean anything. Average runs per game, how about that? These are going to be more, I would say, like, I bet you these do like 8 and 7 days. Yep, well, how about that? 8 and 7, kind of random noise, but helpful. But that's what I kind of feel like. And also these two, the average runs per game and average runs allowed, those are involved in the projected score. So I kind of want them included somewhat in the master margin formula, 9 and 6. Because yeah, it is kind of a little determinate. It's just a look at the season, and it does show you that, for example, the Dodgers score a lot of runs and give up not very many according to the year. And when you start to see that, you start to see how it rolls into stuff. All right, so off of memory there. What that made me want to do is it made me think that pitcher win percentage is A-okay. We're getting almost halfway through the season. Pitcher whip is more like this. ERA is good. lineup factor has to be included because it's part of the score, but it's not at its big 45%er that it used to be. Let's leave it at a little lower at like 30 or 35 because it's more random noise than I'm thinking until we fix it. But you do need it in there as a positive number. Bullpen ERA, okay. Streaks, no, just the one. And then here, so we're already at 100%. Now that's okay if we go over. It doesn't matter actually. It's just going to change margins a little bit. Let's go with the Ovechkin 8 on those two. Oh no, hold on. I don't know where our total is. Wait a second. Total's 84. No, wait a minute. No, that's okay. Even variables means that you have a lot of good variables in here, right? The only reason the lineup factor has to be lineup factor, it is kind of the secret sauce because it does change all the time. It changes games, who's plays. It's supposed to have an impact. So I usually have it higher. We'll give ERA a little more then. And we're trying to get to 100. All right, pitcher win percentage, 15%. Okay, so let's see what that does. 8 and 7 day, losing with the Yankees. They come back and make it close. Losing this crazy game. Weird colors. That's not over, not over. Also losing a crazy game. I believe Atlanta lost. Where'd that game go? 12-10 somehow. Oh, what nuts stuff that was all about. 12-10. And we are going somewhere with this before the end of the video, which would be like, what would you pick right now based on the algorithm? And also profitability in round robins, which I need to talk about. It's another part of this video is how do you turn this into bets, right? What to take. So backing up, after changing these variables, this actually looks a lot better according to game flow today. Still can't get rid of the Cubs on here, but at least 22% margin. I feel like a streak's going to destroy the Cubs. Yeah, streaks, they are playing bad right now. It's something to look at. It's something that when you see a really low number here, except it didn't pan out that way for Washington. They had a really low number there and they won. Yeah, it's the algorithm. The thing just told us, the mini regression test right there just told us that streaks don't matter. So I should stop looking at it. I don't know why I want to throw it in there. It's because it's a different picture every day, I guess. All right, so this is just a little bit more reasonable. And it has Texas and it has St. Louis. I like that. So just as you can see, as I redistributed this distribution, I did it because we found out whip was really bad today. And streaks are really bad. And lineup factor was more choppy. And until we do a better job with the batter pivot, okay, until I start doing a better job with this by thinking about at this point of the season, where is it shade more toward green? For example, like if we were to give a lot to home runs, we'd be giving a lot to Aaron Judge. We'd be giving a lot to Mike Trout. We'd be giving a lot to Pete Alonso. If we upped RBIs or home runs or whatever is here is green. What if we took a lot more away for caught stealing? What's that going to do? It's going to take the Angels down a bit. It's going to take Atlanta down a bit. It's going to take Tampa Bay down a bit. Mets down a bit. People that have 5, if you make this thing negative 12%, if you make, we up home runs, we lower runs, we lower hits. I mean, what do we do here? I don't necessarily know what to do. Is average more important now because we're later in the season, and on base more important, or slugging? I don't really know. We're at 108%. But when you do that, these lineup factors all change, and they're going to change color. And as you can see, we just did a bunch of stuff, and now things are different, and projected scores are different also. So what is that? Things actually just moved around here, right? It moved Texas up, moved Houston up over the Mets. How interesting is that? Something we just did really switched around this Houston Mets game more, and something we just did with the batting order and batting stats actually did something better. So maybe, yeah, maybe splitting this stuff up and paying attention more to more cumulative stats right now, given that different players have different numbers of games played, is probably better for what happened tonight, right? You're going to weight newer players more impactfully. So anyway, I'm talking about a lot of different stuff. I'm still going. We're going to still talk because I'm going to talk about connecting stuff. For example, wow, that because now that all of a sudden that turned profitable. So what I did here is I have a round robin calculator file that does the bets, and I spread out $25 over different parlay combinations of 2s and 3s and 4s and 5s and 6s and 7s. And I have the top 7 games from the algorithm for the day connected to that file here. So like you get to see how could you have crafted a bet and how much would it have made? And this one actually makes 47%. Your $25 turns into 36 because you win all these games. Minnesota not over, and Toronto not over. So we have to make sure these games are over first to completely know, but it's doing the simulated payout. So Cardinals still 6-2. Ooh, Guardians are beating Minnesota in the top of the 11th. Texas is way up 7-0 though, and the Blue Jays are up 4-2 in the 9th. Probably going to win that game. San Diego still hasn't come back, and Seattle's still leading. Okay, now we'll for the sake of this call that game for Cleveland, even though it's only the top of the inning. It's definitely not over yet. But we'll change that score. We'll show that Texas is crushing it. I'll go back and look. Minnesota pops off here, and there's still games going on. Okay, so here's the cool part. So when you go over to this thing, like was there, now we're losing money. Obviously, if Minnesota loses, it's just really, the algorithm's just having a tough day. But was there anything you could have done? Like, for example, how bad did the odds makers do, right? Forget about the algorithm for a second. Let's compare this to what the odds makers did. And what we're going to do here is we're going to clear this. And we're going to say that we're looking for lines that are less than 101. So we're going to say value filters. Less than line is going to be less than, yeah, -1 or whatever. It's going to bring you just, these are just odds maker favorites. We're now sorting these, sending by line to get the biggest favorites on top. I mean, look, the odds makers got spanked in the middle. If assuming Minnesota loses, they go 2 and 4 in the top 6. Then they start winning with these teams, but lose with Baltimore and maybe lose with San Diego. Do here, and they have a 7 and 6 day. Okay, so the algorithm, after all of our finessing and everything, I'll have to look and see what the original algorithm that I sent out would do. Yeah, we're doing a lot of work here, actually. Gotta be careful with what we're doing. We're doing all kinds of crazy stuff. Probably went 8 and 7 so far. So it's a kind of about the same, but you can see that there are more winners on top. I remember Boston was 3rd originally, and we got to change the Minnesota score back to have the Cleveland win. So it goes 7 and 8, right? So anyway, all right, all that talk. So how can you make this thing win? And well, we're going to keep adjusting those variables. And I like what this was yielding for today for a lot of different reasons. And I like the order that it's sticking the stuff out in, and leaving things like this up here. So it's still probably going to lose all its underdogs today. So in that sense, the odds makers, I believe, did better because we lost every single underdog it touched today, whether it was the Mets originally, or the Angels, or the Cubs, Was it, there's another underdog on here, I think also. So yeah, so it didn't have a good day, but that's okay. It's not gonna have a good day every day, but it is gonna have some good days soon, just on average it does. So we'll keep it up tomorrow. I will get your 7 picks tomorrow, and we'll do better than what it did today, which was like nothing. Cubs were terrible. Mets lost, or losing. This, St. Louis hit over 5, but Minnesota is at 5 right now. So it's actually a push right now, unless they can score in the bottom of the 11th. And this didn't happen. So this thing's paying 73 cents. And if Minnesota can get another run, it pays $1.39, right? Because it was not distributed properly. If you distributed it like the connector, and it was full 25 bucks. Show the other one in a second. If you distribute it like this and have it more even so that you get paid on any parlays, you can actually get half your money back. So that's kind of better. But if you get a push here or loss, get a push, get $8 back, still lose. But that shows you how you don't have to lose it all every day and really weight everything up at the top the way that I always do, because I just want to get paid. I want to hit them all and get paid. That's the way I look at it. I'm not worried about $8, $12 or whatever. I'm like, well, are we going to hit it or are we not going to hit it today? Right? It's going to be fun. And because that way you knew early in the day that this was not going to happen, because Atlanta lost, the Yankees lost, and Baltimore lost. Yep. And so this was already dead. It doesn't matter that this is going to win, this is going to win, or that this team covered. So this was, this was a distribution of teams that shows you that betting on favorites like this without getting a little creative, just reading the algorithm top to bottom, while it will hit, it's not going to pay a ton when it does. This only pays $200, right? The other one paid 600 something, right? Because that's some crazy stuff. Still missed it. Like you missed Baltimore beating Washington on the other one, but you also missed the over completely. This is a 3-0 game. So in that sense, if you're going to get it wrong, you're going to get it wrong. And we were only going to be able to get to 121 even without that game. But, had the wrong side of the game on the Mets. Should have had like, Dodgers -1.5 here, or even Yankees, if the Yankees were going to win because they were a really high pick, or Boston, which you didn't take. I passed over Boston because I was scared of that because of Rich Hill. That would have been at -195, but it still would have won and would have shown you that you needed to win. This is not over yet, actually. This one crushed it and hit the over completely, and the Cubs stink. Now, why? Why am I taking the Cubs? Algorithm said take the Cubs. God, couldn't get them off there. Could not get rid of them. So 6-1, 6-2, still 2-1. Now it's 2-0 there. All right. All that being said, long video. I hope it helped to help you like understand what's going on and what's predicting things in this algorithm, and how to change them and how to test them against one day. If you want to test them against the entire results tab and all the history, what we have to do is we have to make this margin formula right here a formula that talks to the variables on this sheet, and basically does the same thing all the way through this results tab. It'll, like, all this stuff will become a formula, and some other things would become a formula again, so that it would do the prediction and retroactively change the results. So you like break the real history of this file and you start having a simulated history of the file with whatever percentages you want here. And it is kind of a cool exercise, because you start to look at like all the games at once in the pivot. You like look at the whole year and you're like, oh, well, we were 579 and 395 overall. Well, what if I change the distribution to something else completely? How can I get the history of this thing to be better than a 59% win percentage, which is apparently what it is, or at least what was recorded in this file. And also, like, how can I get games that are above a certain margin, right? So when I say that games above 10% margin, I'm saying that the value filter, greater than margin is greater than 0.1, then on those games, we have a 63% win percentage, and we're 298 and 178, like I was saying, right? And you can see the string. You could also see a string of profitability if we just kept going down with this. And you could have it completely dynamic and, I mean, crazy. It's visually cool because it'll show you where the profitability was. Why do we have errors? Yeah, it makes me want to fix old scores and stuff, but it's annoying because I want to be able to see the whole thing. But the point is it shows you that this what's rolling down here on the profit is if you bet the teams that were at the top of the margin comparison, like there was a game on St. Louis versus Pittsburgh game at some point. If we double clicked it, we'd find that it's game number 43. So it's early on in the season. And it was a loss. Like we lost that game. And then we won 3 games that were way up on this margin list that had big, huge margins in the past. And so you see what your gross profit is right here if you bet $1 on every one of those games, and what your total ROI overall would be. Okay, so like this is a really good spot right here because you lost the St. Louis game, but you won 3 games after it. So you're at 17% ROI overall because you're like 3-1. Then it drops when you lose the St. Louis and Cincinnati game. And so now you're at -6, whatever. So you do that. So what you're looking at is your gross profit. Well, where is your gross profit really good? Now you start to see green numbers here. You know that, oh, wow, like at above the 27% margin, 26 margin, look how great we're doing. Look how we did great all the way up to right around 25%. We peaked here at a profit of 13 units and 19% overall ROI right at 25.2%. Okay. And it's still up. It's still up, but you're still profiting, but you can see your total ROI is dropping. And then we hit this weird game right here, which is, I'll just fix it right now. It's game number 309. So let's find game number 309. Which is where? It's funny that I think I have to look in format and values. Yep, game number 309 is right here. And for some reason, it's not the same game number 309 as the one we're looking at. The 2 game 309s? What am I talking about? Where is the error? The error is right here. It's game 389. I'm getting there. I make mistakes all the time. Sorry. Game 389. There it is. And there's a couple errors right here, and it's why. It's because there's no money line. So we don't even have money lines on some of these games. So that's also screwing our profitability, actually. So I'm putting in money lines now, and you'll see that when I do that, stuff's going to change, but it's not fully accurate. But the win-loss number is accurate. So you got to take it with a grain of salt because we're looking at massive swath of data historically. But this is because you have wins here, you are going to see that, yes, above 14%, we're showing some stuff like 5% ROI and up 15 units in however many games this was. It's 200, 300 games. So that's what 5% ROI looks like if you're making straight bets on stuff. That looks to be about where it peaked. I mean, I can continue fixing this and go on forever, but who wants to go on forever, right? So the point of all of that was it's a big tool. It's what it is. It's a really, really interesting big tool that you can use to mess around with. And it's going to provide pretty good information. Not obviously every day, all the time in every game. And you really have to figure out what inputs you're going to put into it. And it's one of the reasons why I get concerned about promising to deliver this every day, because it actually takes effort to make sure that you do an assessment of what you're putting out. Because if you do one weird thing, what happens in this game, right? Miami actually would have won. We actually would have won. And what happens here with Desclafani? No, there would be Atlanta's supposed to crush him even more. So in that sense, that was a better choice to put Desclafani as last year. So anyhow, all right, that's long enough of video, but I just want you, there's just so much going on that I have to do video to talk about it once in a while. All right, so good luck, everybody. I'll be back on Wednesday with 7 picks, shorter video for sure. We'll just get it out there. May all your picks be winning.